Welcome back to the Journey to the Abandoned House, episode 23. This week I have the staircase complete with all the risers and the little bottom step. I ran into a little snag on that one, but I fixed it, so it's fine. We have the ceiling in the main living space has now been suspended by the trusses. That was an interesting little project. And I have the floor, the new one that I've created, next to the staircase, and the existing one that I made so that they're the same elevation. I started prepping to get all the repairs to splice the two together. All that's getting sorted out. So let's jump to it. So this week, the staircase, I wanted to complete it and to make sure that it's ready for sheetrock. And the way you do that is to make sure you've got a gap between the wall and the staircase. I had to build this wall behind me and make sure it had the gap as well going up the rake. And that gap is 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, whatever the thickness of the sheetrock plus the thickness of the skirt board. And that makes installing skirt boards super easy. And it's really cheap and really easy to do. So when planning your staircases, might be something you want to think about. And obviously the risers that you see now. Before, last time you guys saw this, the framing was all exposed. And down here on the bottom, there wasn't a step. So now that's all complete. Had to tear all that out, build that guy up, and build that one up a little bit. And when I did this, I was running into some problems. Let me show you that. All right, it's Wednesday afternoon, and when I came in today, I wanted to get straight to this project, which is finishing out this staircase. And when I arrived, or I should say, when I left last night, I took some measurements to try to figure out what the final dimension should be. And just verifying, because I had torn out the floor that was here. I went through 2 layers of linoleum, then a layer of luan, and then the original hardwood floor was still underneath all that. And so I cut all that stuff out to get to the original sheathing. And by the time I got through all that, just putting a 6 5/16 stair in really wouldn't cut it. So I'm going to have to modify that dimension a little bit in order to get to what I need to be. But I was missing 1/4 inch, and this 1/4 inch would take me out of code, and I don't want to do that. So I was racking my brain, where did I lose this 1/4 inch? I thought I hit subfloor before, and so I started taking all kinds of measurements, and I'm using the laser, and I'm using the levels, and of course the landing where this main staircase lands is not exactly level. And then the floor that I'm trying to hit isn't level. So what do? And even when I compensated for all that, I'm still missing 1/4 inch. Well, what I did in my haste to get things done quickly, because I need to get into production mode on this thing. And every time I turn around, Frankie says, "Meh, you can't do production mode on this house." Nope, I'm gonna fight you tooth and nail. So she did, and the floor, not only is it not level this way, but it also pitches right at the nose. So when I landed my stringers, they ended up having a 1/4 inch gap at the leading edge. So I had to go in there and cut out the heel of all my stringers to get the toe to land appropriately. So let me show you what I did. So this is the toe, and then the heel is way back there. So what I did is I had to get the Sawzall in here, and I had to cut the heel back here all the way to nothing here. As you can see, my saw blade kind of drifted on me a little bit. That's fine. And so I had to do that on all 4 stringers. Now, I should have caught that sooner before I put the treads on all, but I was so excited to get a staircase going. I just wanted to go, 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 and didn't think of it. I didn't look. So, that took, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, cut all those, and landed them back down where they needed to be. I had to take out the timber locks that held the stringer against that side off. That was no big deal. But put that in, and then I've been working on the floor or on the stairs ever since. And now I have the last 2 steps in, and they're all set. So, now I need to start cutting all the riser backers all the way up the staircase. But in my process this morning, I killed my track saw batteries. So they're charging. So I need something else to do. So I decided that I'm going to come up the stairs. And there's a little task that'll take about an hour. And I'll get through this, and then my battery should be charged. So I should be all set. And that little task is, if you can see here, where these floor joists end, there's this 2x4 right here that all this floor sheathing is landing on. And you see how it's pitched away? I'm not 100% sure why that happened. I'm assuming it's just settling pains, but I really don't know. I just don't know. So what I'm going to do is go through, nip all these nails to all the sheathing here, take out the last course of hardwood that is already missing here, but is right here. So I'll take that out and nip all the nails, get this to pitch back where it belongs, put another 2x4 underneath so that I can land all this stuff back where it belongs. And then I can put another chunk of sheathing on and finish, this little project. So I hope that all made sense to you. And if you didn't, drop a comment down below. I'm happy to answer it. Here's the OSB floor that I created with a framework. These are the floor joists, this little block that I used to help me draw this guy up. This is now sitting vertical. I have the ledger board sistered onto it. It's also, it's a 2x10, so it goes down below the 2x4 over the 6x8 and ties that all up. So now it's super strong, and I have a place to put my sheathing. And now, next week, I'll extend this guy over. I'll probably cut into this and start fixing all these holes. So I'll have to peel up some of this flooring and, fix all that stuff. Now, in the process of sorting this all out, whenever I design a staircase, my thought process is do the math, figure out the ideal rise and run. And once you do that, that number for the riser is your middle point. You have 3/8 of an inch from the top stair to the bottom, top to bottom stair, that you can have in deviation. 3/8 of an inch. That's not very much. And so in my head, I always default for the staircase to have for this one was 6 5/16. So that's the midpoint of that 3/8 inch. And when I was trying to sort out this problem that I was having, I couldn't get past that. Like my head just automatically set 6 5/16, that's your midpoint, that's your midpoint, that's your midpoint. And it doesn't have to be. It can be the bottom, it can be the top. And so once I sorted out the elevation issues and the slanting issues, getting all that figured out and addressed, and the toe issue that I had, I still couldn't make this last step within code. There's just too much of a deviation. So, but once I got out of my head and realized the rule of 3/8 of an inch, I made 6 5/16 the bottom of my scope. Deviation. That's the word. We'll go with deviation. And so that makes 6 11/16 the top. And once I figured that out, easy peasy, I had it. And all the deviation I have now is 6 5/16 to 6 5/8. I'm within code. You cannot tell at all going up and down these stairs. I've done it already a zillion times. And man, I still can't stress enough how amazing it is to have a staircase inside of a building that hasn't had one since I've owned it. What a game changer in your timeline. Everything can happen just a little bit faster. And those little bits, man, they add up. And this staircase is so nice to go up and down. Your legs don't feel fatigued after doing it a bunch of times, where the front staircase is a little more aggressive. And you feel at the end of the day, especially when you're hauling lumber. Look at me go! Whew. There's no stud work, no framing, holding the ceiling up anymore. Or is there? Well, while I catch my breath, why don't you guys have a look and watch how I did it? Oh. When I woke up this morning thinking about the plan for the day, I was not really thinking I was going to go this route. And then when I had my cup of tea, I was downloading the footage from yesterday, and I really paid attention to when I was installing these two jacks behind me and how much the ceiling was flexing when I did that. And how easy it was to flex that ceiling. So it's telling me there's not a tremendous amount of weight there. And it's telling me that if I were to do something now at this phase, I could make it easier to install the timber frame that's going to be going in here. So I think that's what I'm going to tackle today, is get up in the attic space, find a way to cut open the old hardwood floor that's up there, and drop in framing members to tie this ceiling up into the trusses. Because there's nothing actually attaching the trusses to this building other than some toenails on the outside edges. Which is scary in its own right. I was talking to an engineer friend of mine about this, and he said it's pretty remarkable that we haven't had a good enough wind to pull this roof up. It doesn't make sense. So I'm going to go up there, cut some access holes, different locations and put some framing in to tie this ceiling up to the trusses. I'm gonna jack it all up first, get it up as high as I can get it, and tie it all up, and then lower the jacks down and see how she does. And then tomorrow morning when I have my cup of tea, I'll watch this footage and yeah, see how I did. Because when you're jacking, you're doing it in such small incremental amounts, it's hard to see while you're, next to the floor jacking it up and watching the elevation. But when I go to lower this all down, what I'll do is I'll probably shoot the laser and actually get measurements on how it's doing as I'm doing it. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. One more little section that I wanted to show is that this here, you have the double 2x10 running right there. And then now you see that block right there, and that goes up to that horizontal 2x4 up there. Not this one, but that one up in there. So that one up there bridges across 4 different trusses. And so they're nailed to that board. And then I nailed that board to that board, and then that board to the 2x10s. And that is what took stress that was on the last post that I had here. It was directly underneath there. And as I was starting to pull it off, I didn't like how much tension was still on it. So I went ahead and jacked it up even further, put as much tension on as possibly could, tied that all up, and then loosened that jack, and she came right out. Easy peasy. What else do we have? Well, in order to make my little racetrack that I just went on, I moved a ton of material, and it's outside.
I thought I'd try something a little bit different. Put the chest harness on, put the camera on the chest, and I thought I'd walk around instead of just doing the time lapse the entire time with the music playing in the background. I thought I'd chat for a little bit because I have, a fair bit of things to say. And start out with, if you notice, I put all my siding, when I stacked it, I put all the narrow ends together and all the fat ends together, or the toe and heels. And I do that because it makes it easier to stack outside or wherever you're going to stack it. So then I just pick it up, I flip it over onto my shoulder, and out I go. Super simple. So I thought I'd have a little chat session with both tips of what I'm doing, or just talking through what I'm doing, really. And, general stuff, I guess. So to start with, if you notice in the lunch section of this video, I sat outside and I enjoyed the sun, which, man, I cannot emphasize how important that is. When you're doing your lunchtime, man, just disconnect for a few minutes. Get outside if you can when it's nice out like that day, and just soak it in. Yeah, I live in a beautiful place. This neighborhood isn't the greatest, but it's still, really enjoyable. The sun shines, and I'm just out there enjoying it. And eating my classic peanut butter and honey sandwich, which is what I eat pretty much most of the time. And on that note, did you know that honey has the natural ability to fight off like hay season and other allergies and things if you're eating honey from your local area? That's the key. Get honey from locals. That doesn't mean go to your local grocer and it says local honey and you look where it was bottled or distributed from or whatever, and it says something like Kentucky. Not to say that there's anything wrong with Kentucky. It's a beautiful place. I just don't live there, so therefore it's not local to me. Now, if you are local to Kentucky, feel free. Eat that honey. You can make peanut butter and honey sandwiches. You can put honey on your cereal in the morning. I really enjoy that. Or honey in a cup of tea. There's all kinds of uses for honey. Way back in the day, the military would issue honey as a way to field dress wounds. Sorry for the wind. Whew. The stack is getting right up there. So a little bit ago, I was speaking with one of the people who frequently walk by the property and help encourage me to keep moving on it, which I really appreciate. And nice fella, he's retired. He used to run a business here in town. And we got to talking about hiring people, how hard it is to hire people, especially now. It's rough. And he was telling me that, someone with my skill sets and background, because I've told him pretty much the vast majority of my story. And he was saying that, someone like myself could just walk into pretty much any establishment that has some sort of a trade, and I'd be hired in a heartbeat. And, I understand where he was coming from, and I do appreciate the input and the suggestion and the encouragement, but I don't want to give up. And that's what that would be in my eyes. for me in this scenario. Because I have a much bigger vision than just being a carpenter, just being a builder. It's really, I know it's a passion thing, and passion projects tend to, they backfire on a lot of people. And I don't want that to happen, for sure. But it kind of resonated with me, the whole conversation. Whew. That's not getting any lighter. And I know that I really could just go to work for anyone, make one phone call, and I could have a different job. But then what happens to my mission? What happens to my passion about trying to impact my community? It would die. And if that dies, well, honestly, a little piece of me will die. So I'm quite passionate about being successful at this mission. And if you don't know what that mission is, well, ask, I guess. Be happy to tell you about it. So we got 2 more rows. We can do it. So in the comments down below, let me know if you like this sort of scenario, where I chat through the menial tasks of just moving material, as that is, good God, a huge portion of what we do as builders and carpenters and tradespeople, I should say. Do struggle with that whole, anything to do with what I do is referred to for men. I don't care what you are. Swing a hammer and be accurate with it. Well, what else can we talk about? How about music? What do you guys listen to when you're on a job, or cleaning your house, or doing whatever it is you do that you just do over and over and over again? My poor wife that keeps the house clean and the kid entertained, and she has news on quite a bit. Or the Beatles. She likes the Beatles channel on Pandora. I like it. Not my go-to. I think today I was listening to the Pandora station called Death Metal Billionaires. I guess it's 1 billion views or listens, or however Pandora measures their metrics. They lumped all the bands together. It's fine by me, because most of it's from, the 90s and early 2000s. And being 43 years old, that's an influential part of my life. Was that time period. I listened to a lot of music back then. Still do, really. Only time the radio's not on is when I'm talking to you guys. Because, can't have music on in the background. YouTube gets a little finicky about that. Well, there you have it. The stack is now restacked, and then If you look down there on top of my aluminum pick, there's more material, and behind that's another stack of material. So I'll go ahead and grab that, get that outside, and then I can start figuring out how to enclose this whole section here. I don't have material for it, so that's gonna have to wait till next week, but I can figure out layout and how much material I need and get a list going so I can start my day at the lumber yard on Monday. Man, it feels good to have all the windows open. I got it out there, I got the tarps on it. As I'm putting the tarps on it, she just starts raining. Raining and raining and raining. It hasn't stopped yet, still raining. All right, thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate you making it this far. It helps YouTube to know that you're enjoying it. And along those lines, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I'm at 96 subscribers, and I want to hit that triple digit. Show me the triple digit love. You know, subscriptions are free. You know, for my generation, you're bombarded with subscriptions your whole life, and I'm shy. I'm super shy around subscriptions. I didn't know how this whole YouTube thing worked until I became a YouTuber, and I didn't subscribe to anyone at all. I watched a ton of content and never subscribed. And once I learned how everything worked, I subscribed to everybody. If I like their content, that is. If you don't like it, don't subscribe. If you do like it, subscribe. It just helps YouTube to learn what people enjoy. So, hit the subscribe button. Maybe even, hammer that like button. And if you want to continue the journey, you can go over here. Or I'll just let YouTube pick whatever this option is, right there. All right, guys, ton of love, appreciate it, and I will catch you up next week.